Hello everyone, welcome back. So last time we went ahead and we basically went through all of Ring City, completed that whole area that you can run around in, and we battled and defeated Dark Eater Midir. He's a really huge and cool and tough dragon to fight, and personally one of my all-time favorite Dark Souls bosses ever. So he's gone, we defeated him. And I think we talked to Shira afterwards because she gives you a slab. And I remember getting invaded twice while trying to do that. Well, now we're going to pretty much complete Ring City. We've got 2 bosses to do, and we've got the final boss of the game to do. And then we're pretty much done. I was playing this a little bit last night on a different character, and I realized I missed something. So I'm going to go to Ring City streets and warp there. And it's nothing, like, critical. It's just a unique item that you can only find in Ring City. One of a kind, but I don't really think it does anything. I don't remember. I'll have to check. Basically, it's a mask. It looks kind of weird. So we're going to go over here, drop down, and down in this little trench there's that item. We hop down in here, white preacher head. And then we'll go back to Bonfire Last Rested At. I'm also in offline mode for this because the boss we need to face next is either... It's part of a covenant, but if you're offline you actually fight a legit character they created for you to fight, and if you fight online then it randomly summons somebody in to help defend the church that we're going to. And so I like to do the offline mode, at least for this, because you know this is like a walkthrough of all the main bosses. For that fight, that could be anybody. It depends on what character people build. So we're gonna go do that next, but I picked up the white preacher head, and let's see what it says here. White-faced locusts were meant to beckon men to the dark with sermons, but most of them are unable to think past their own stomachs. Someone must rise to the occasion and restore the path of righteousness. Perhaps that someone is you. Did you not arise from the abyss, and did you not resist drowning in the age of fire? Locusts and men are kindred spirits. It doesn't really do anything. It just tells a weird story. And you can put it on. It just looks weird. I pretty much probably forgot about it because I don't think I've ever used it for anything. So, yeah. It's kind of a forgetful item. I don't think it does anything. You can check on the wikis, though. Let's see what it says. And the good thing about starting here is that... actually, no, not this one. Different bonfire. I thought we were really close to the next boss, but it's actually this one. So, at the second bonfire, we got this little shortcut last time. And we got our Chloranthy ring +3 and Ring of Favor +3. We've got a Silver Cat ring. I'm going to put on, instead of the Silver Cat ring, put on Ring of Steel Protection +3. Because this boss is pretty much going to do physical damage to us. So we go down this way. And we're going to be faced with a ringed knight with paired greatswords. And if you kill him, you'll get those paired greatswords, which a lot of people really liked. Because in Dark Souls 2, you could pair greatswords. You could have 2 greatswords in one hand, or a greatsword in each hand and dual wield them. So people kind of really wanted that since the game came out, and they finally released them in Ring City. And I'm doing terrible against him. totally dodging things wrong. I ran too far around him. Let's go around. I'm not doing very well versus him. There we go, finally get a backstab. Now we can do some damage. Titanite chunk, get his paired greatswords, those pop up automatically. So if you like kick him over this edge, it's not like you're gonna lose him. But he's not really the easiest to get over the edge. Get Twinkling Titanite. And then we've got to hop down here. We should have tons of Seek Brew. 5. I'm gonna use one just to heal me a little bit. So our next boss is in here. You heard him talking. It's not really him though. So this boss fight can get a little hectic. The first thing that's going to happen is he's going to summon in this Painting Guardian. But he's also going to summon in an actual player. If you're online, this will be a real person, not Halflight, Spear of the Church. It'll be another person with some weird name actually playing online. And it'll be their character. It'll be them playing. So you'll have to battle a real human being. It'll basically be PvP. Which is pretty interesting. And they're going to get a whole bunch of bonuses for doing this. It's part of a covenant, so they'll get a reward if they beat you. They also will get some guys, some of these Painting Guardians, to help them defend here. They can't heal, but the Painting Guardians can use a miracle to heal them. They can also get this spear thing, and they'll get like a little boost to they'll get like the little bolts here to help them. Those are just pretty much given to them. They get those little bolts that stick out of the ground too. That's an item they can use. And right now this fight doesn't seem very hard. You're just fighting another person. But once you get them to about half, there should be another Painting Guardian here. And this causes problems because the Painting Guardian will heal like that. So really, if you're going to do this, you try to focus on killing the Painting Guardians first, and then you battle the summoned person. Ah, he pulled it off anyway. Come on. Alright, that one's gone. Now we gotta fight Halflight. It's a pretty cool fight. Halflight's using a lot of the stuff you find in the DLC. Like the bow. That's the white birch bow. We picked that up last video. The katana they're using is the frayed blade, which is what you make from Dark Eater Midir's soul. The shield is just a knight shield, but it's a fun little fight. I think the robes are also something that you pick up right in front of Midir. Forget exactly what they're called, but basically this is a DLC person. If you were to almost build a character using only the DLC items, it'd be this person. Like I said, you can join this covenant once you beat them. Actually, once you beat Midir, I think you get the ability to join this covenant. And you get a Titanite slab and Filianor's spirit ornament. And if you want to join that group, which we have it from Midir, you get Spears of the Church from Midir after you beat him. And this is basically what you do, is you put this on, and when somebody enters this area, you have a chance of being summoned to fight them. Now, usually, since it's a boss fight and this is Dark Souls, people will bring in their friends to help them fight. And because this game summons in a Painting Guardian in the beginning, then if you're not quick enough, you'll have to fight the Painting Guardian and Halflight. And if you only focus on Halflight, then the Painting Guardians will heal themselves and Halflight. And then at around half health of whoever it is, if it's Halflight or the other person, there's a second Painting Guardian that comes in. And so that can be a real pain for one person if you don't take out the Painting Guardians first. I believe the fight used to be that there was more than one Painting Guardian at a time. So, one would summon in, and if you didn't kill it fast enough while fighting it and Halflight, another would summon in after a certain amount of time. And I think the limit was 2, but I'm pretty sure they reduced it because they realized it was kind of hard for a solo person. The summoning friends definitely is a way of beating that boss. A lot of people do it, so if you're going to do that, you have to expect that you're going to be fighting multiple people, and you can't heal yourself. But the Painting Guardians can heal you. And so you kind of have to depend on your dodging abilities and the Painting Guardians to heal you, or you're going to have a really hard time. So you have to keep them alive as you're fighting. And usually people bring in at least 1, if not 2 people to help them during that fight. So it can be a pain. It really depends on how prepared the host is. I'm going to pop a soul. Large soul of a crestfallen knight. I'll just use probably 3 of these other ones. That's 30,000. That'll be more than enough to level up. Again, I'm going to put it into health again. And now we can pretty much get ready for the next boss fight. So we go to Church of Filianor. And that one's pretty easy. That boss fight, Halflight or a person, unless the person's really good at PvP and you don't have any phantoms or whatever, it could be pretty difficult for you. But if you're doing it offline to fight the actual game-generated person, it's not that bad. And then to progress, you just go up here. And they've been talking about, don't disturb Princess Filianor, or Filianor, you know, is guarding man from the truth or something like that is what they say. That's a lever. Okay. So we're going to open up in here. And this is Princess Filianor. And they say, do not disturb her, because disturbing her is like something that's really terrible, and we don't really know why. But in order to progress, you have to do this, and, you know, we're curious anyway. So yeah, we touch that weird egg thing. It falls apart. She kind of wakes up, and we get, like, transported to the future. And, this is the future. This is the end of the world, like, as far in time as it can go. This is what happens when the fire finally decides to maybe fade away forever, or, you know, something. This is just the end goal of what happens after cycles and cycles and cycles and cycles of kindling and fading and kindling and fading and all this other stuff. It's just years into the future. And so you basically, it's pretty much just you right now. You've got this guy crawling on the ground.
Filianor, help me, please. The Red Hood is come to eat us, to eat our dark soul.
So this guy is crawling away, saying the Red Hood is coming to eat him, to eat the dark soul. And you're like, I have no idea what that is. So before we go and fight the final boss of the DLC, which is over there, we're going to go over here. And since we touched this whole eggshell thing, and Shira was like, don't touch the eggshell, that's bad, don't disturb Filianor, I'll get pissed. Well, we did it anyway, and if you run over here, she'll invade you. At least she should. There we go.
For thee, dark-stricken creature, I am Shira, daughter of this myth, descendant of gods, and trusted friend to Medea. At once, I am the honor of the gods, the glory of fire, and the fear of the dark. Thou shalt not go unpunished for thy treachery, thy profanity, and thy shameless yearning.
So she gives a little monologue there about how you're just a terrible person for disturbing Princess Filianor, and this is basically the future. Or you could say, like, this is like Filianor was hiding this from people. She was like, her duty was to kind of shroud people from the fact that this is the reality of the future. But we went ahead and, you know, screwed all that up, and now Shira, who is serving the gods, Filianor is a descendant of the gods. Shira's like, well, I was serving Filianor, and I served the gods, and, you know, you screwed everything up. It was against the gods' wishes for you to see this, so I'm here to kill you. Even though we helped her defeat Midir and everything. That screaming skull gives her some poise. It's also a giant axe, so it does a ton of damage. She's out of Estus already. Her lightning arrows are absolutely devastating. She's counting on you rolling at just the right time. She's gonna do it again. Oh, and she gets like infinite focus points, so she'll never run out of those arrows, which you saw how much damage they do to me, so they'll probably do about the same to you. So she hates us, but we killed her. That's fine. Because basically we do all this in search of whether it's power or we're just curious, kind of. It's almost just a curiosity thing. It's like, hey, I wonder what happens. Like, you were kind of told about this dark soul to go into this world. The game doesn't really tell you, but throughout the whole DLC, they tell you about this dark soul. So the idea is that you're like, huh, what's the dark soul? I'm gonna go find it. And you get to Filianor, and people are like talking about her, you know, saving like the human race or whatever. And you're like, well, you know, maybe she knows about the dark soul or something. So you're all curious, and you touch her eggshell, and that makes everything fall apart. And we're gonna find the dark soul out here. But everybody knew that if you destroyed that, you basically caused the end of the world. So they were telling you, hey, don't do it. Don't go there. That's why there were safeguards in place. That's why there was a whole covenant dedicated to defending her. Because they're like, we don't want the world to end. If you do that, you're going to cause the world to end. Oh, crap. He needs to stop doing this. There we go. $17,000 souls. Titanite chunks, Titanite slab. I have 40,000 souls. I really don't want to do this boss fight with 40,000 souls. So I will force myself to level up one more time. So I guess you could think about it that you destroying that eggshell, either there's a few ways to think about it. It like reveals the truth that like the Ring City was guarding the truth, which was like that eventually the world is going to end and it's going to be because of humanity or whatever. That's the way I like to think about that. Whether or not that's right, that's a different story, but that's kind of my take on it. And then there's also like a whole side of things where it's like you could be transported into the future because you did that. Or there's a thing like, you know, you basically caused the end of the world. So there's a few different aspects you could take from what you just did. But in the end, you're at the end of the world, and it's pretty much just you and like a couple other things that survived this far. And I'm going to warn you that this boss fight, since it's the final boss fight of this DLC, this is going to be pretty tough.
The Red Hood is come to eat us, to eat our dark soul.
What? Still here? Hand it over, that thing, your dark soul. For my lady's painting.
And so, for the final boss fight of the DLC, we have Slave Knight Gale, who was introduced in Ashes of Ariandel as a character, except he wasn't like this. In Ashes of Ariandel, he's the one that took you to the painting. He handed you the scrap and said, hey, go into the painted world and show my lady fire. Well, after we did that, we talked to the painting lady, and she said, hey, you know, she was basically looking for a pigment for her painting, and she mentioned something about the Dark Soul being the pigment she's looking for. So Gale, serving her, went out looking for this Dark Soul for her painting, and pretty much went insane in the process. And in going insane, he's somehow grown to be one of the strongest individuals in the game, to the point where he was so strong he could make it to the end of the world. And now it's basically just you and him left alive in the world fighting. You guys are like the two most powerful beings in existence, is basically the idea. So it's a really neat concept. Although they're pretty ambiguous about the Dark Soul and what it is and what it does. Ah, crap. That was a bad heal on my part. That was also a bad heal on my part. And if you're really curious on, like, deciphering the story, there are lore videos. People spend their lives dedicating hours and hours of their lives just doing the lore for this video game, because it's very in-depth. I'll take that. He's really fast and really aggressive. Just know that blocking is almost not an option here. You'd have to have one of the highest stability great shields to be able to block all of this, and then probably rings in addition to all of that. Stamina is very important. You don't want to run out of stamina while you're fighting this. I mean, I have a super high stability shield right now, and he's knocking away my shield pretty easy. And when he growls like that, he's gonna do this wicked jump, like 6-hit combo thing. And this is just like phase 1 of 3, because every boss has to have 3 phases at this point. Ah, you gotta watch out for some of his swings. He's got some back swings that he does. And healing is really tricky with him. You really gotta know when he's not going to follow up with another attack. And it's really hard, because some attacks, he follows up with an attack immediately after he does it. And then there are others where he doesn't. He just does, like, the stab. And you'll have time to heal, but you don't know that.
Is this the blood? The blood of the dark soul.
And now we're on to phase 2. There will be another phase, not really a phase, but he'll do like slightly more aggressive attacks. And there won't be a cutscene, but there's basically kind of phase 2 and then like phase 2.5. In phase 2, his cloak is going to be doing most of the fighting for him. He'll swing his sword, but it's his cloak that you really need to watch out for, because his cape there will attack for him. Although sometimes it feels like he might be a little easier to dodge in this phase, because he uses his cloak to attack, which means that if you can dodge his normal attack, you can probably dodge his cloak that's coming up. It's important, I guess, to note that when you're fighting him, he is weak to frost, which is kind of an interesting thing because not a lot of bosses are weak to frost. But the frost damage you do is not going to be very high. I think if he gets frostbitten, it does like a little over 500, but it takes several hits or several spell castings to get him there. It's almost not worth it. Unless you're kind of building a character revolving around one of like a frost spell or a frost weapon. Those rings do come back. They'll come back right now, so you can't stand on that same side he threw them, otherwise you'll get hit. And I'm not sure what kind of damage he's doing. I think this is just magic damage, though, with his cloak. Oh, that was... I can't believe I got out of that. That was very poorly timed. So now he's about halfway. His repeating crossbow isn't that hard to dodge. You just kind of can't be at point blank. When he does this, he's going to do an explosion. Those will kind of CQ. And then he'll start like doing more flying attacks. There's going to be this lightning. This is like the next phase of the boss battle, if you want to call it that. He does some major damage here, and I'm pretty much losing my health to him. We got 3 flasks, and we got to survive the rest of the fight. He basically just attacks a little faster and then adds some lightning attacks and stuff. That kind of flurry attack he adds, that's new. He can actually get damaged by the lightning that's striking in the sky, but he takes like 2 damage. So it's not a viable strategy to get him to get in that. Again, this is the explosion thing. You can get hit by those, so you really can't stand in one spot, but they're pretty slow and pretty easy to dodge. You gotta really not get hit by the lightning, because the lightning is a problem. That will actually severely damage you, even though it doesn't do much to him. And you can tell where the lightning's gonna hit from where the spots on the ground light up. Ah, that was terrible of me. I can't move. I ran out of stamina. Ah, I'm dodging that wrong, and I can't avoid that. I almost feel like sometimes it's easier to get far away from him because he'll do a flying attack that you can anticipate. When you're close, he does that kind of stuff, you really can't do much. I'll take this little bit of health, but if I don't do very well, then I'll probably have to back out of this fight. You just never really know when to attack him. And even if you do get an attack in, his cloak can have that kind of after attack that'll damage you like that. Watch out for his cloak. Here comes a jump attack. Staggered him a little bit. That hurt. Can't move. Yep, that's death. Very, very tough. It just feels like sometimes that those flasks aren't enough. But that's where you can kind of change your strategy. So, like, I have 20 faith. And I think I can bring a talisman of some kind. And I'll be able to take advantage of that. Maybe I'll just bring the white hair talisman. That'll let me cast both my pyromancy and some healing. I bet I have a basic healing. That's all I really need. I have great heal. I don't even have medium heal. We'll go back to Firelink. He's a very, very tough fight. I don't have any souls, so I gotta pop a soul. Some kind. Probably use this. She sells heal aid. I don't want that. Wow, medium heal is 3,500. Was not expecting that. And just to double check, the white hair talisman does combustion. I don't think I want that. If you get a chime, this one only requires 12 faith. If you get a chime, then you can sometimes get like the healing. Chimes will do this like little healing thing that'll heal you over time. So maybe instead of buffing my weapon with fire, I'm definitely going to put on medium heal. And I really can't buff it with anything. I don't even have blessed weapon. I could buy it from her, but I'm not going to. None of these other spells are going to help too much. I'd have to buy... I guess you can use deep protection. That'll help. And I'd like a buff, but that's just not going to happen. I guess I could put in like a projectile thing, but I just don't think that's going to work out that well. And let me check with Andre real quick. Should be able to infuse something. I don't really want to infuse my Lothric shield with simple. I could. It would give me significantly higher magic defense. It'd also give me magic attack, but that's not what I want. The biggest thing about putting simple on something is that your magic regenerates over time. If you put simple on a shield, it makes your shield's like defending stats worse, except for whatever you like the magic that it'll get. But you'll get like some focus point regeneration over time, which is really useful, especially for a build like mine where I don't have a lot of focus points. But I mean, what are you gonna do? Pretty much, I can't have like the perfect character for this. I guess I could if I wanted to respec, but if you're really depending on your miracles and stuff to help you a little bit here, cast them, then rest, then go through the fog. And he's gonna come all the way up here to battle us this time. We gotta not lose so much healing in this stage of the fight. Need to lose like 1 or 2, not 5 like I did last time. And I believe once you get him to phase 2, that cutscene will happen. You'll be teleported back into the arena where we fought him last time. With deep protection, we should take a little less damage and have a little more stamina regeneration, but that's only going to last for a little bit. I got greedy with my hit, and I got punished for it. Watch your stamina bar a lot in this fight. And here we go, phase 2. I'll heal. And that was a much better first phase than the last time. Ah, come on. That was a bad start. Ah. I got punished heavy. I'm getting a little greedy in this fight. I couldn't see. No time to heal, really, other than flasks. Watch out for lightning. When he does this explosion, you might have some time to heal. Maybe. I'm getting kind of punished for that heavily by him, so that was a really bad move. I wasn't far enough away when he did that attack. Ah, that lightning. As soon as I saw it falling, I knew I was in trouble. I'm not going to try and heal this time. I was far enough back that I probably could have. I think it might be where the lightning strikes is where all those little orb things land. That's what it's starting to look like anyway. watch out for the lightning. I'm pretty sure it is everywhere where those orb things land. That's where the lightning's gonna fall. So that's a good predictor of where you need to be. Oh, he's gonna do this. So those pretty much go everywhere. And especially the ones that get close to you. That's gonna make some lightning happen there. And yes, he does teleport. He doesn't do it too often solo, it looks like, but if you do it with a friend, this can get pretty bad. He'll teleport frequently. I thought he was done attacking. Watching out for lightning. Getting sort of greedy fighting him, but he's almost dead. And there we go. That was a much, much better run of that fight than the first time. So we get Soul of Slave Knight Gale and Blood of the Dark Soul. And for more on Gale and what he does, we can read a little bit about him in the Soul. It says, the red-hooded wandering slave knight Gale sought the blood of the Dark Soul as pigment for the painted world, but Gale knew he was no champion, that the Dark Soul would likely ruin him, and that he had little hope of a safe return. So, apparently he found the Dark Soul, whether or not it's killing all these king guys in Londor here, or whatever it happens to be, he found it. And he had it, but he seemed to think that you had a dark soul too, and he wanted to take it from you. Pretty much collect... Every human has a little bit of this dark soul inside of them, so killing as many people as possible, he grew strong, he gets this dark soul, and he was going to take it back to the painting lady to have her make her new painted world. But, you know, obviously that didn't work out very well. So with his stuff and that silver serpent ring, now we can level up twice. So let's see. Let's do a little luck. Luck just helps you with item discovery. It also improves hollow scaling and bleed damage frequency. How often something bleeds can happen because of your luck stat. So, luck can be something useful to invest into if you're really trying to collect things. We'll talk to Ludlith. You can make Gale's repeating crossbow. Used in the battles of an endless journey, this crossbow is covered with twists and dinks, rusted with blood, and made extremely brittle from overuse. Skill, repeat fire. You can basically do the rapid fire thing that Gale uses. Or you can make his sword. The only weapon that he kept with him from beginning to end. Originally an executioner's sword made up for decapitation. This blade is heavily chipped and stained with the blood of countless battles. And you get, like, his really rapid kind of flying attacks with its stance. The Blade of Peril. Of the two options, the sword is pretty much the better one. The repeating crossbow sounds really cool, but it just doesn't do as much damage. And especially since you have to use the weapon art to do the repeating thing, you're going to drain a lot of focus points doing it.
Treat the fire Kishi.
And so it's pretty much just better to go ahead and do the sword here. Now I can put my spells back on. And yeah, so that is all of Ring City. That is all of the game so far. We just have this final end cutscene. We can talk with whoever we want to upgrade whatever we want. We can learn more pyromancies from the pyromancer. We can reinforce this other pyromancy flame, depending on how expensive it's going to be. Might be a good option. Its thing is that when you use this, it leaves a tiny little fire trail around it when you cast, which just means if somebody's in close proximity as you're casting, they can get hurt. And also, it's got the parting flame skill, which is you have to kill a certain number of people, and then you'll get Estus from your flame, which is kind of cool. So if you want to do like a pyromancer only run for the next game cycle, it's a pretty unique weapon. So it's also important to know that his armor and stuff that he's wearing is unique. So if you want his stuff, you have to kill him, and you'll get it that way. I think you buy it from the Firekeeper. Either that or he drops it, or not buy it from the Firekeeper. Buy it from the Handmaid. And yeah, so at the end of your game, you should probably kill him once you've determined you have no use for him, because you'll get his stuff. Andre, there's really nothing to be gained from killing him, I don't think. Grey Rat's dead. Carla, you can already buy her stuff, so there's really no reason to kill her. We already killed the sorcerer guy because we wanted to get the Morian blade from Yuria. You can kill Yuria and get Dark Drift. There's also another option to get her stuff is you can also get her like dress and everything too. But another option is to summon her for this final boss fight. And if she survives, you can come into the Dark Firelink Shrine and go to that spot, and you'll find her body and like her stuff there. You'll get her katana called Dark Drift. You can also just kill her. But we're not going to kill her yet because we have the end of the game to do. So now that we've defeated pretty much everything and done everything we can do, we'll place this final Cinders of a Lord in its throne. After placing all those, the Firekeeper will make her way down to the bonfire, and you'll have a special little cutscene.
The five lords sit their 5 thrones, all thanks to thee, most worthy of lords. Ashen One, with the lords as thy witness, bend thy knee afore the bonfire's coiled sword, and let the lord's embers acknowledge thee as their true heir, a true lord, fit to link the fire. Farewell, maiden.
So, there's also another thing you can do, is if you don't want to do the dark ending with Yuria, you can give the Firekeeper the eyes of the Firekeeper, and that'll trigger another ending option where you can summon her at the end after you defeat the final boss, and you'll get a special ending that way, or you can just link the fire at the end. If you summon the Firekeeper, there's also another option where you can kill her, and in that time when you kill her, you get another ending. But for achievements, you have 3, which is Link the Fire, which means you don't have to do any special thing. There's this other one, which is give her the eyes of the Firekeeper. And then there's the whole Yuria thing that we've been doing. Becoming a Lord of Hollows and all this other stuff. Lord of Londor. That took a lot of stuff, and we've been playing the game to accommodate that whole quest, so that's the ending I'm picking, and that's pretty much the hardest ending to do.
Farewell, maiden.
So when you're ready, you go up to your bonfire and you kneel.
Lords of Cinder. The fire fades. And the Lords go without thrones. Surrender your fires to the true heir. Let him grant death to the old gods of Lordran, deliverers of the first flame.
That sweet little cutscene will now take you into Kiln of the First Flame, which is, so far, it looks like Firelink Shrine, except with nowhere really able to go. Everything's all collapsed. There's nothing you can really do here. So, we go out the door here. You can't go up, you can't go anywhere else. You just go out here, and you'll get your nice view of this area called the Kiln of the First Flame. Kind of looks like Ring City a little bit. Ruined buildings and archways and every kingdom ever just kind of ruined together into one. From countless ages of just kindling and fading and kindling and fading, and people like you coming up here and linking the fire or choosing whatever path they choose. So you have to come over here and go to proceed to the first flame. So now we kind of just teleported all the way over here. And if you wanted to access Ring City without doing Ashes of Ariandel, this is your bonfire you would go to. It says travel to the Dreg Heap. And this is the other option. So you don't have to do Ashes of Ariandel, but you do have to do most of the main game to get to Ring City. So you kind of have two options. You either go through Ashes of Ariandel kind of early and probably struggle with that, or you go through most of the game and you'll be able to enter Ring City. At that point, you could probably do Ashes of Ariandel, but if you really don't like that DLC, you can skip it by going to that fire. So we kind of teleported from over there. Gotta find... maybe that was it, over there. We teleported over here. And we just go up here. And so if you've done your dark ending, you'll have Londor Pale Shade. And I mean dark ending as in like Uria's ending. And up here you should have Uria that you can summon for this boss fight. At this rate, since this was the boss of the base game, the final one, he's going to be a bit challenging, maybe your first time if you're the right level, but we've gone through 2 DLCs and probably leveled up 20 extra times, maybe even 30 extra times compared to, you know, what you would have done normally. So say you're in here around level 80, we're 112 right now. So we're pretty high leveled. This shouldn't be too difficult, but it is really, really cool. This arena here that we see is just filled with swords of people that have tried to do what we're about to do and lost. So, pretty cool concept. And this boss is really, really cool. Another one of my favorites. Out of stamina. That's been punishing me. So with him, his whole thing is he'll start out with that sword, and then he'll transform into a number of different phases here. He has this kind of sorcery phase where his sword turns into a catalyst, and you'll have to fight his magic. And it's really cool because these spells that he's using are spells that you can use. Even this one. And he'll transform again. He'll have a scimitar, not necessarily in this order. He could have the scimitar first. But this will be his, like, pyromancy stage. So he'll be using pyromancies that you could have used throughout your game. He does more acrobatic flips and stuff to be the agile character. That's power within, so he's going to do more damage at the expense of his health. And then he'll transform into another phase, which could be this spear phase. And this spear phase brings in miracles. Right now he's still got power within going, so he's doing extra damage to us. And I'm completely dodging that wrong. He'll try to impale you with his spear, but he should be trying to cast miracles, which I would like to show before we get him down to nothing. But he transformed again, back into the sword, where he really doesn't focus on any magic, it's just his sword. And once you get him down really low, he'll transform into his second phase. Where this is one giant callback to Dark Souls 1. Aw, man, that still hit me. Come on. I'm getting greedy because I don't care about my health. I know that I'm going to be able to beat him first try. So I really don't care about damage at this point. I can almost tank anything that he throws at us. But I should probably depend a little more on dodging and not be so risky. So I'll do that now. So basically, this is a giant callback to Dark Souls 1, because the final boss of Dark Souls 1 did very similar attacks. Like that. That was an attack that he could have done. This attack here is not something he did. But it's a pretty cool attack. That jump attack is a Dark Souls 1 thing. Pretty much when you're fighting him, if you've played Dark Souls 1, you'll probably have a lot of this dodging down. That's a grab attack. Same type of thing as in Dark Souls 1. Basically, he'll grab you, and then he'll shoot fire out of his hand and hurt you. This has tremendous range, and will do a ton of damage to you if you get caught in that. And there's really no escape once that happens. And so he's just going to be pretty aggressive and switch out a lot of things here. He's going to do more lightning. That jump attack, you just dodge right before he hits you. You should be fine. And here comes this attack again, so you really got to get far back. Ah. I should have made it out of that, but with that attack, you basically just roll. It's kind of like King of the Storm. Or Nameless King, I should say. And he's done. So, that wasn't the best run of this fight, but he should be pretty easy. I mean, we are pretty over-leveled. That's why I didn't really care too much about the damage I was taking. If you're doing this around the time you should be doing this, which is right after, you know, the Lothric princes, Lorien and Lothric, then you're going to struggle a lot, or at least a lot more, because that's the time you're supposed to be doing that. And that was a long time ago. That was like several videos ago, probably 5 or so videos ago when I did that stuff. So in that time, we've leveled up quite a bit. So now, you have some options here. You can link the first flame here. If you gave the eyes to the Firekeeper, you will see her summon sign here, and you'll summon her. And if you've done Uria's thing correctly, there won't be anything, there won't be any triggers. You can just run right out of here and go back to Firelink if you want. But in order to progress and actually beat this game and get to Journey 2, if you've done Uria's thing correctly, you'll get a different ending when you go up to the bonfire and choose Link the Flame. Because we saw her summon sign before this boss, so we're good. You don't have to summon her for this. But that's kind of your trigger to let you know if you've done everything right. So you'll go up here and you'll do Link the First Flame, but instead of linking it, you'll get a different ending. And that's your special ending for doing all that work with Yuria. You get that kind of cool ending where everybody bows to you and makes way for you. You'll get a different credit song for choosing this option than you would if you did, like, Link the Fire. I think this is the same one that does if you gave the eyes to the Firekeeper and summoned her. And that's Dark Souls 3. you're done. No more to really worry about. So for your first playthrough ever, it was probably tough and, you know, rage quitting at times, but you made through it. You got it done. So congrats. It's all good, and that's one heck of an achievement. Not a lot of people sit down and play through Dark Souls and get through it and go, yep, I was able to beat that. I mean, there are a lot of people that do that, but there are a lot of people out there that play it and give up because it was too hard. So you can skip the credits, I think. Unless maybe it's your absolute first time playing, then they might make you do it. But if somebody has played through it and beaten it, then, and you're like playing on their account, then you should be able to skip it. It'll give you the option. It says begin Journey 2 now, or it can be initiated from the Shrine Bonfire if you don't want to start now. So we're not going to start now. It puts us back at Firelink, where we can level up.
For the Lords of Cinder, for the Ashen Prisoners, for all those held to preserve the fire, link the first flame.
So the Firekeeper really wants you to link the first flame for all the people that sacrifice themselves so that it could be linked. But it's ultimately up to you because, you know, you're the one that's made it this far. But, you know, we chose to side with Yuria and become Lord of Londor instead. So Yuria's down there. She won't say anything because you haven't, like, beaten the game yet. Yes, you have, but, like, the characters don't think so.
All thine heart is fixed upon the linking of the fire. But, brave usurper, I prithee, wrest the flame from its mantle, so that we hollows, in most honest shape of man, may have it for our own.
And so if you're, you know, about done with Yuria and all her stuff, doesn't really look like there's anything that I need from her, you can kill her if you want and get her stuff that way.
What is the matter?
She kind of freaks out when you do that to her, though.
Please, stop. What is the matter? Brave usurper, I beseech thee, claim the fire.
Yes, we killed our own loyal servant. How sad. We get Dark Drift, and we get her ashes. You don't have to kill her. Again, if you summon her for that fight and you do it, you go to the Dark Firelink Shrine, which is past Champion Gundyr, not Udex Gundyr. So you have to go into Untended Graves. You can warp to Champion Gundyr. And you give it to the handmaid. And you'll be able to buy Yuria's armor now, if you want it. The black mask, black dress, black gauntlets, black leggings. So in this time, after you've beaten your game, you can enjoy some PvP with all the stuff that you have. Go farm for more upgrade materials if you have to. Upgrade any weapons that you think you're going to need. You can even buy another slab, which, you know, you might as well. If you're going into the next game cycle, since there's only a limited number per playthrough, you might as well grab that. Refined gems. We don't have very many, but we can pick them up. You can buy pretty much any weapon from, like, a common enemy. Well, I shouldn't say that. You can pick up a lot of the weapons from enemies throughout the game. Like, here's a washing pole. This is a unique weapon that, if you haven't bought it yet, you probably want. It's a really, really, really long katana. You should also buy all the unique armor, which is going to be very, very expensive. Like the Firelink armor from the Soul of Cinder. We just killed him as the final boss. You can wear that armor, and it's pretty lightweight armor. And provides pretty decent defense, too. So, you know, that's something I would buy there, too. Just buy pretty much everything that's one of a kind. Stock up on splintering and exploding bolts, because you won't be able to get those unless Grey Rat pillages and dies and you bring his ashes back. Just stock up on everything. Over here, Ludlith sacrificed himself so that you could battle the soul of Cinder. And you can examine... Actually, you want to pick up item. You get the skull ring from him. And all the skull ring is a ring that causes enemies to focus their attention on you. And that sounds useless. It says easier to be detected by enemies. But it can kind of help for like co-op. If you're a better player than a friend or something, you can pick up this ring and wear it, and enemies will go after you first, typically. Not all the time. And then with the Soul of Cinder's soul, even though Ludlith is dead, you can still do transposition. You can make Sunlight Spear, which requires 40 faith, but it's the most powerful lightning spear that you can throw. Or you can make the Firelink Greatsword, which is okay. It really doesn't have good scaling. For being like a fire weapon, it doesn't have scaling in intelligence or faith, which is kind of weird. It's a great sword, and its skill, Ember, you basically just hit the ground and make a little fire wave in front of you. Of the two options, if you're gonna think about doing miracles, if you're gonna invest in faith more, pick the Sunlight Spear. If you're gonna really get into melee and want to have like every weapon, then pick the sword. It is important to note, though, that if you want the achievement for getting all the miracles and all the pyromancies and all the spells and stuff, you will have to have the Sunlight Spear at some point. So I'll pick Sunlight Spear. And that's pretty much that. You can run around and check every area that you know of. You can almost kind of just run through the game again. Check for items you might have missed. A lot of times quests will end. A character will be like, oh, you know, we did our duty, and then they'll just never show up again. And some of their items can be scattered throughout the world. Maybe you don't get their weapon or whatever. Like Henri, she has a sword. And I don't know if we have that sword. And I don't think you pick it up from her if you do that ending where you do the wedding. Doesn't look like it. And in terms of weapons you can buy, I'm pretty sure you don't buy it. Short sword, long sword, Lothric Knight sword. Nope, you don't really buy it. You can buy a Scholar's Candlestick. If you don't have one of those, that's kind of a good weapon, where if you just put it on, then you'll get a little more sorcery damage, but you also take a little more damage. If you haven't bought the Dried Finger, that doesn't really matter, because you can buy it again really early on. But I'd buy any of the resins that you need, or any of the moss clumps that you want. Embers especially, since all these embers are not going to show up until after you beat the game again. And as for Henri's sword, I don't think I have that, which means that it's in one of two places that I can think of at the moment. We can go to Anne Orlando and check the grave again, now that we've done the whole marriage thing. You might have to do a reset there to get that weapon. Or you check the Cathedral of the Deep. I think I did it in a video where I went over there and I checked a hill for her stuff. We can always go here. Back down to where you did the marriage ceremony. And also, if you're looking for something to do, just because you beat the game doesn't mean, you know, you're done, like you have everything done. You can get, like, the Covenant stuff. If you do the PvP, you can get a lot of Covenant rewards, provided you find people to actually do PvP with, which you should, because this game's still pretty active. But, like, the Watchdogs of Farron Covenant is kind of dead at this point because you're so high level. If you do match with people, they're going to be in New Game Plus, which means that they could be stronger than you. So, you know, that's something to consider. You can also farm for all of the Covenant items. Yep, there is an item here. I bet that's the sword. Because you don't pick it up from Henri when you do this, but I think you have to reset the area. Yep, and you get Henri's sword from here. It's not that great. Looks like that. It's kind of a cool looking sword. It says boosted by that elusive essential property unique to humans, luck. So I guess if you scale in luck, you'll get a little more damage from it. In terms of like how it looks, I should put it in my offhand here, just to compare it to the Lothric Knight sword. Looks like it's a little shorter, but the Lothric Knight sword is pretty long, so that's to be expected. That's a really long sword. A little darker, but it's kind of a cool sword. And so, really at this point, you go around, you check the Covenants, you level up with them, do whatever. Level up with, if you've been doing Warriors of Sunlight, you can level up with them and turn in your Sunlight medals. You need 30 to get all the stuff. Blades of Dark Moon is 30 of Souvenirs of Reprisal, which I think we have 1. No, we have 2. Well, they're not Souvenirs of Reprisal in this game. That's what they were called in the first game. They're called Proof of Concord Kept in this game. These are really hard to get, though. You get them from Silver Knights, from farming, or from doing Blades of Dark Moon and killing an invader and stuff. But it's pretty hard to do. The drop rate on Silver Knights is really, really low. The Sunlight medals you can get from maybe Lothric Knights. You get them from something. Can't remember. The human dregs you get from something else. I don't remember. Spear ornaments, I don't remember either, but that's new. Wolf's Blood Swordgrass you get from the Gru goat people in the swamp. Vertebra Shackles you get from, well, you can do, like, mad dark spirit invasions, but you can also do, you can kill the skeletons in the catacombs, and they'll drop these. Pale Tongues, you can kill dark wraiths for these, or you can just do normal invasions while pledged to Rosaria's fingers. And if you do a battle, like if you go do an invasion in Rosaria's fingers and a blue spirit is summoned to defend the host, if you kill the blue spirit, you get a forked pale tongue, and that's worth 2 pale tongues. You'll convert the pale tongues later, actually at Rosaria. So, and she's also the one where you can respec your character into anything. So if you want to play around with any magic or anything you have before you go into your next game cycle, you'll want to do that. But you can only respec 5 times, so make sure you respec into what you want before you go into the next game cycle or before you run out of respec abilities. You know, obviously check for flask stuff. If you don't have all the flasks, it's 15 at plus 10. If you don't have that, then, you know, that's something you're going to want to go do, because the next game cycle is just going to be this, but harder. And lastly, let's see, I have Homeward Bones, I have Lightning, I have a Lightning Urn, I actually have 19 to 20 of them. I don't have any undead hunter charms, but I'll pick some of those up. I do have a seed of a giant tree. And I'm trying to remember what the last thing you turn in is. It's not repair powder. I'll quickly Google this. You turn in Seek Brew, a Homeward Bone, a Seed of a Giant Tree, and a Lightning Urn to get a special armor from the crows. You can also turn in a Mendicant's Staff, but the Mendicant's Staff is pretty rare. You get it from the snake enemy in Archdragon Peak that summons those phantom guys. Summons like a Havel or the Drake Blood Knight or Ricard, but it's a really rare drop from them. But if you have one and you're not going to use it, then you can bring it over here to the crows. And it's a whole armor set that, again, is a callback to Dark Souls 1 from an NPC character called Solaire. And you get his entire armor set by trading with these crows. I think I might have traded the Homeward Bone already. But you can always check by dropping it. They'll tell you if you have. So leave one Homeward Bone. Not that. Enough. Which means I already got it. So then it's the Seed of a Giant Tree. Just down here. Leave one of these. Get the leggings. Trade a Seek Brew to get the armor, and trade a Lightning Urn and you get the helmet. And the sword you pick up in the game, the Sunlight Straight Sword. So I'll put that all on right now. Iron Helm, Armor of the Sun, Iron Bracelets, Iron Leggings, and the Sunlight Straight Sword. And he does have a unique shield, but like I said, you have to trade in the staff. So I'll just put the thing away. There's also a talisman, the Sunlight Talisman, which is part of his set too. And so this is a character. He looked like this. He's called Solaire. He was in Dark Souls 1. And you get his entire armor set by trading with the crows, like I've said. So if you like this look or whatever, or if you're feeling nostalgic about Dark Souls 1 and his co-op, he was basically the dude that helped you throughout in the entire game, Dark Souls 1, then you get his armor that way. And you can respec your character to roleplay as him for all those fans out there. He was in the Warriors of Sunlight, and, you know, you get the Praise the Sun gesture. It was very popular with him. And I guess in terms of another thing that you can do before your next game cycle is you can heal the Dark Sigil now that you're done with that, except it's really, really expensive. So, almost 700,000 souls just to get rid of that, which is a lot. And you can farm forever doing that, and I don't think there's really any way to reduce that. The only thing maybe would be to use a Purging Stone. Maybe that'll help. I should have a Purging Stone. I have 6 of them. There we go. Purging Stones also make your character look normal for a temporary amount of time. He's not all ugly looking. They don't piss off Uria. Makes your symbol in your top left next to your health there, whatever covenant you're in, makes that show up clear instead of like corroded looking. And nope, it's still 700,000 souls. So it's really, really, really expensive to get rid of. And I think what causes that is how many levels you've obtained after you've gotten the Dark Sigil. So we've gotten a lot. I think we were like level 20 maybe when we got that. So, you know, lots and lots of souls have gone into this character. It's something like that. I don't remember exactly. But you can get rid of that, although in the next game cycle, Yol will come back. He won't be dead like this. He'll come back, and you can get your 5 free level ups like we did in this cycle, which will cause you to hollow out and cause Yuria to show up again, and you can do the whole quest again. But the 5 free level ups in every game cycle is kind of significant, considering that if you want to beat the game in its entirety, like as hard as it gets, every boss, then you have to get to New Game Plus 7. And that's as hard as things get, which means, you know, 5 level ups, 7 playthroughs, 35 levels for free. So you can get rid of it if you want. If you don't plan on getting those levels, you could also, I guess, just farm for those levels. If you're like, hey, look, I don't want to hollow out, so I'll just go right now and kill enemies and get 5 levels from killing enemies. Best ways to get levels, probably, is to go into Ring City or to kill those Wing Knights on top of Grand Archives. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I can think of in terms of things that you can do that you might not have done yet. Other than, you know, kill whatever characters you don't think you're going to need anymore. Because some of them drop stuff. Like the Pyromancer, I know he does.
Fine, fine. I see how it is. When a pupil strays from the...
And I didn't buy all his Pyromancies. But you get his old Sage's Blindfold, his garb, his stuff, all of that. I didn't buy all his Pyromancies. But we can give the handmaid the ashes. And it looks like she'll sell all his stuff anyway. So you can buy it from there. You get his armor and everything. You just can't upgrade your Pyromancy Flame anymore. But, you know, you make those calls when you play your game, and that's that. So that's pretty much everything. Congrats on beating Dark Souls 3, and I plan to make more videos in the future, so check those out if you're interested. See ya some other time.